this wig doesn't say earrings, nothing does. Oh hey, hi, it's me, Wilma Fingerdoo with the Fingerdoo review of RuPaul's Drag Race Season 13, Episode 8. And before I get started, I need to send a huge, big, delicious, wet thank you, well maybe not wet, moist thank you to Jeremy Parker, Raymond DeStefano, Creston Young, Martha Grinwald, Rhonda Wishart, Rebecca Hack, Elizabeth Goldman, Sin Butterworth, and Darren Fancy, this week's Tipperdoos. Thank you all so much for being so generous. I couldn't do my show without you. I'd still do it. I just want to look this good. I'm just saying. All right. And of course, we can't get anything started without Jorge. Drink me. Ooh, what a pretty glass. What is this? A Margot Wilma? All right. Fresca and tequila, Amarga Wilma. Olé. All right, so let's get to it. We started this episode off by sadly saying goodbye to Miss La La Ree. I know she went home too soon to be considered for Miss Congeniality. Miss Congeniality is usually someone who makes it to top 5 at least, but you could feel her absence in the workroom immediately. It was definitely the most emotional goodbye of the season at any rate. Well, Candy was devastated, at least to see one of her bald-headed sisters sashay. I'm so serious. I could be her replacement, I'm just saying. Of course, Olivia had to be congratulated because now that she's won 2 challenges in a row, they're scared of her. Speaking of Olivia, Utica was regretting not fighting more for the role Olivia won with. Even in her disappointment, she pointed out the positive, like how great she thought each and every one of them were. I don't know if Simone wasn't buying it or she's just getting bored with it, but she called out the fact that Utica doesn't seem to have a bad bone in her whole body. Well, then, quick as a wink, Utica called out Olivia's hairline. She didn't even blink. Lightning doesn't strike that fast. Those queens should be very grateful that Utica's a good Christian woman. That's all I'm saying. Speaking of Olivia's hairline, how is it that I didn't notice all of that uncut lace until now? Seriously, Olivia's smile isn't that blinding. Just saying. Rosé was more than a little emotional at being safe, but she wasn't letting it diminish how she felt about her performance or her runway. Good for her. She did do well. It's just that 2 or 3 did a little bit better. Live and learn. Denali, on the other hand, was just out and out mad not to have done better than safe. I get it. Her favorite costume didn't get a better reaction. Going on about it being the strongest and the best. Calm down, Karen. It was one of the strongest and one of the best. It certainly looked like the most expensive, I'll just tell you what. But from an editorial point of view, Utica's look was breathtaking. So was Simone's. I mean, if we're comparing lamp looks, Rosé's black and red lamp from the episode 3's mini challenge was way more interesting, I'm just saying. Plus, she seemed to think that a great runway will make up for a not-so-great performance. Well, clearly it did. It kept her out of the bottom. Seriously. Now, I want to say, I get where Denali is coming from. She's a competitor. But she's also coming off like a sore loser. Going on and on about being called forgettable in the reading challenge last week. I'd already forgotten about that, but Denali had taken it to heart. It's a reading challenge. What are they supposed to say? You're the best? You're gonna win? As the queens were getting out of drag, Denali seemed to go out of her way to prove she wasn't forgettable. Well, to Candy at any rate, by body shaming her alleged womanly form with that of Mrs. Potato Head. See? Sore loser. Say. Something else that wasn't going unnoticed was that the first queen from the winner's circle had sashayed away. There were no more allusions to the winner's circle being a fait accompli to the top anymore. This race just became any queen's game. Squeeze! The next day in the workroom, Tina Burner was feeling the absence of another queen in the room, which meant another opportunity to give us the Tina Burner experience. Do you mean there's more to Tina Burner than disappointingly expensive drag? I don't know if Joey J gets money every time she's mentioned on TV, but if she does, then Candy is getting a cut. She worked some fantasy about the season 13 queens living at large in an LA mansion like some social media influencer super spreader event into a love nest feathered with Joey J's chicken. Just almost threw up there a little. Thank God Ru showed up with this week's Maxi Challenge, social media, the unofficial Rusical. No one was more excited for this than Rosé. This was the challenge she's been waiting for, and I'm not surprised. She's a New York City queen. This is the challenge that her sister Jan face cracked over not winning last year. Remember that? How could you forget it? The queens would be playing anthropomorphized social media platforms, and they'd be recording their vocals with Michelle Visage and rehearsing with Jamal Sims. I feel better already. The first thing the queens did was cast this sucker. Most people called for and got the roles they wanted without too much fuss until we got to Denali, Utica, and Rosé. There were 3 roles left: Foxy, Lady Tweet, and one of the Russian bots, which was part of a duo with Gottmik already taking up one of the parts. Well, Denali wanted to do 2 roles. Of course she did. Her choices were Foxy and Lady Tweet. Utica was feeling Lady Tweet in more ways than one. She stood her ground and made her case and won her role. Good for Utica. Let's hope that this keeps her out of the bottom for a change. Seriously. Rosé then announced that she wanted the role of Foxy because she had a parody of Don't Rain on My Parade, which is one of Rosé's signature songs to perform. Well, this must have scared Denali because she tried to backpedal on Foxy and make a grab for Lady Tweet. But it was a done deal. Utica wasn't budging. So this left Denali and Rosé staking a claim on the role of Foxy. What were they going to do? Karen pointed out that she'd been safe 3 weeks in a row, and as hard as I'm sure that was for her, Rosé very quickly pointed out that she wasn't the only one. On a side note, is anyone else loving the way Rosé's saying baby? Just me? Anyway, to solve this dilemma, Elliot suggested that they both audition for it, which, of course, Denali loved. But audition for it, they did. Rosé went first because that's what Foxy would do. Watch, she'll be selling What Would Foxy Do t-shirts next week. Seriously. So Rosé went first and killed it. She even stayed in character long enough to shade Denali's setup to her audition. With jacket or without, Foxy would know. See? T-shirts. It clearly ruffled Denali's cool because her audition wasn't as good as I'm sure she'd tell you it could have been. So it was no surprise that when the audition was over, Rosé was cast as Foxy. I feel there should be jazz hands. Something that I want to point out here is Tina burnt her throwing a dig at Rosé by voting for Denali. She keeps saying Olivia is a secret diva. I think that's so no one notices her diva ways. Seriously. Needless to say, Denali was not happy, which is too bad because the last time someone wasn't happy about a casting, I think it was Nina Bonina in Kardashian the Rusical, and she ended up in the bottom 3. I'm just saying. I feel like we all should be singing the Stones, You Can't Always Get What You Want. Who's got a lighter? So, as the queens got down to work highlighting their scripts, well, almost everyone, Utica clearly had too much coffee because she was saying fun and exciting so much that she was going to turn it into a drinking game. Speaking of, don't act like you fingerdoers out there aren't doing the same thing every time I say seriously or I'm just saying. Seriously. Drink responsibly, I'm just saying. Seriously. Suddenly, the alarm went off. The queens were stunned. Was it Ru with another video message? No. It was Anne Hathaway on a Zoom call or some such thing. Needless to say, the queens were excited. Well, as excited as one can be on a video chat. It's not like David Letterman showing up for your birthday or anything, I'm just saying. Did you see that on Drew's show? It was cute. Anne was there to answer their questions about doing a musical, and boy did she have them. Tina asked for advice on the best way to die in a musical. Anne's advice, make as much noise as you can before you go. Those are words to live by, I'm just saying. Rosé asked if there were any roles she had to fight for. The short answer always is yes. To prove it, she told the queens that she was the 9th choice for Devil Wears Prada. Well, that seemed to put a spark back into Denali's eyes, I'm just saying. Then Gottmik brought it home by asking what you do if you don't get the role you want. Well, Anne's answer? Steal the show anyway. And suddenly, there was fire back in Denali. She seemed to come back to life. Anne also had some great advice on how to do an accent and told them all why she loves drag so much and ended the whole thing with a rousing, don't forget to have fun. She's a doll. And then it was on to recording their verses with Michelle Visage. Tina went first, and she did well with her Ethel Merman vibrato that Olivia thought made her sound old. Before Olivia started, she had a question about a line being sung by herself or with the ensemble. Michelle asked her if that was because she didn't do ensemble work. Tina Burnter jumped all over that, and, well then, Olivia sang. Secret diva indeed. I think I'm starting to believe Tina. Thing. Poor Simone is not a singer, and she is no friend of the word ogle. What surprised me about Simone's session was how she seemed to disappear. She looked so uncomfortable that she wanted the ground to swallow her up, and it looked like it was succeeding. Seriously. Candy didn't do so bad. Her only complaint was that she had a lot of S's for somebody with a lisp, and here I thought she was wearing lip gloss. I say that as somebody with a lisp too. Lispy. Do you have a tissue? Everyone was surprised at how bad a singer Elliot was. Personally, I was more surprised she seemed to be coming down off of something or had just woken up. I mean, this was not the energy level I was expecting from a queen who wants to prove to the other queens that she's a threat. Mind you, her motivation was Billie Eilish. She's the anti-Try. I'm Uncle Try. Utica seemed eager to record her verse, but her lips had other ideas. This was a parody of the Gilbert and Sullivan, I am a very model of a modern major general, but you wouldn't have known it listening to Utica. I don't know, I expected more focus from somebody who wouldn't give up this part. Seriously. But there was no time to linger. The queens had to leave the stage and come back again to rehearse with the handsomely talented Jamal Sims. Up first was Olivia. She has a musical theater background. She went to theater camp. Of course she did. Simone was next, and if I felt bad for her during the recording session, my heart just about broke for her here. She has such a fierce walk, and the lip syncing we've seen from her so far shows she can dance. But clearly, learning prepared choreography is where her body draws the line, bless. I still can't believe her fellow mean bald bitch, Candy, made fun of her while she was learning her choreography. I guess all is fair in love and war. Utica also took the piss out of Simone's dancing before her session with Jamal, which I thought was brave for someone who's not been burning up the dance floor since she's been there. Tell me I'm wrong. Let's just say she didn't impress anybody. Candy was another one who should have left the big talk till after her session with Jamal. I'm not saying she had easy choreography to learn, but it certainly wasn't easy to watch. I'm so serious. Rosé took the stage and killed it. Cut. Print. Gottmik and Denali were next, and it looked like Denali's need to shine was going to overshadow Gottmik's ability to learn choreo. That's the trick when you're working with a partner. You have to work with them, not better than or in spite of. As hard as this choreography seemed to me, I was afraid it was going to be harder on Denali. I'm just saying. Something that bothered me about Rosé's judgment of the other queens who struggled was how she seemed to gloat about it. It's one thing to be a mean girl, but I suspect Rosé may be one of those queens who uses her talent to make you feel bad about yours. Mark my words. Just saying. The next day, as the queens got ready for the Rusical debut, Candy talked to Simone about her struggles the day before. Simone was feeling particularly nervous because she said her vocals for her track didn't sound particularly good, which made her afraid of the whole shebang. Utica asked the rest of the room if they had experienced any social media backlash in their time. Well, Candy talked about how Aja was attacked for almost 2 years after the whole Valentina thing from season 9, and that backlash spilled onto the House of Aja by association. Candy was called Fat Aja by people she didn't even know. I think that's horrible. It shows how small a person is when they try to make somebody else feel small. I'm just glad that body shaming is finally becoming the new no-no. By the way, new no-no was my drag queen name in high school. On the other hand, a picture of Candy sitting alone at an event spawned the meme sitting alone in the VIP, which Candy turned into a single with Alaska. So, silk purse meets sow's ear. That's not a fat joke. Speaking of the public eye, Rosé asked Tina about her relationship with Graham Norton. And although Tina didn't talk much about the relationship itself, she did talk about how aggressive social media and the press that satellites it is. She didn't say whether that pressure contributed to the breakup, but I'm sure it didn't help. Denali took the conversational football and ran with it by asking who everyone's celebrity crush was, and then shared that she had crushes of cartoon princes. As probably why she acts like a princess. And then it was time for the runway. I still don't know if I liked Ru's outfit. I'm a huge fan of a coat dress, but I feel like sequin fabric isn't the best fabric to use on a cut like this. It shows all the seams, I'm just saying. And what was with that purse? I tried to find out who made it or why all of a sudden Ru needed to carry one, but I found nothing. Sorry, just that. First, social media, the unofficial Rusical. Will it become official when it becomes part of the Vegas live show? Tina, as the MC, kicked the Rusical off. I thought she did a great job, but that might be my excitement at her not wearing red or yellow or a combo of both. I don't know. Olivia was great as Marcy Tuckenberg, and Rosé killed it as Foxy, but then I was expecting nothing less. Speaking of less, God bless Simone. Oh, that was rough. Whoa. Utica did okay as Lady Tweet. For once, all her mugging worked for this role. Candy was another one who was a disappointment. She seemed to be fighting that wig, among other things. Elliot did a great job, I thought. Her vocals made much more sense when she was dancing in the dark with that flashlight. Maybe that's why she didn't stand out more. There's no spotlight on her. Speaking of spotlights, Rosé's performance put a smile on Ru's face. Or she was having a stroke. A nice surprise was the Russian bots. I thought for sure that Denali would upstage Gottmik and try to steal the spotlight, but no, not only did they work together beautifully, but Gottmik stepped up her game so much she almost upstaged Denali. Almost. And then it was time for the runway. Category is yellow. Gorgeous. Tina's yellow taxi-inspired look was fun. The neckline was the most flattering one that Tina's had on all season, and this was my favorite wig she's worn so far in the competition. I can't believe I'm saying this, but Fingerdoo for Tina Burner. Seriously. Olivia's little lemon drop fantasy with the puffball sleeves was stunning at first. I don't know what was going on with that bodice, but it had too many elements, if you ask me. The nude illusion panel down the middle wasn't wide enough to make an impact, and it sounds dirty. And the asymmetry of the bodice wasn't distinct enough to look asymmetric. To me, it just looked like there was a strap missing, but that color worked on Olivia, and she looked gorgeous, and was still a Fingerdoo for me, I'm just saying. Simone's was next, and although I loved her fluffy hooker coat and boots, I was not a fan of her lederhosen. I know that sounds dirty too. A lot of people online have been ragging on about Simone wearing a lot of two-piece outfits on the runway. I didn't mind it up till now. This outfit was a finger don't for me, but her hair and makeup more than made up for it, seriously. I liked Utica's runway. At first, I thought it was a Marie Antoinette dress with panniers, but no, it was a medieval open-sided fantasy that I didn't quite understand, but I didn't hate it either. It got a Fingerdoo as well. Did anyone else think her hair buns with the yellow gems looked like beehives? Just me? Candy's Beyonce-inspired lemonade number was okay. I thought she looked lovely, but that dress swallowed her up. It needed one or two layers removed, or maybe all the layers shortened a bit, but it needed the bulk taken out of that dress. Still, I gave it a Fingerdoo. Elliot was next, and in the category of who wore the yellow taxi better, she was the winner. My only critique is that that steering wheel she was clutching wasn't a purse or something. Otherwise, why was she carrying it? Was she just in an accident? Either way, she got a Fingerdoo. I'm just going to say it, I hated Rosé's runway. First of all, it almost wasn't yellow. It reminded me of the Veuve Clicquot label, which I've always thought was orange, but Veuve Clicquot itself calls it egg yolk yellow. So, there you go. Secondly, the lapel of the jacket looked like it was an afterthought. It just didn't look like it was part of the look. And lastly, I get that she was paying a tribute to Jim Carrey in The Mask, but painting her face green made her head look way too big for her body. This whole thing was a finger don't for me, I hate to say. I really liked Denali's Princess Python, from the stunning headpiece to the asymmetry of the jumpsuit to the weird stole-like arm cape. It was a total Fingerdoo for me. Finally, Gottmik's Crash Test Dummy was fun. Was it better than Denali's from episode 5? No, it was just different, but in a Fingerdoo kind of way. Then it was time for the judges' critiques. Olivia, Utica, and Elliot were safe, so they freaked off to the Untucked Lounge. Utica was thrilled. She finally broke the curse of being in the bottom from the last 3 episodes. Elliot was happy to be safe, but was frustrated for not standing out in another dance challenge. Back in the Untucked Lounge, Elliot, Utica, and Olivia discussed who was in the top and who was in the bottom. Utica was beyond relieved because she thought she was in the bottom. So did Olivia. Somewhere Tina Bernter is saying, "I told you so," I'm just saying. Of course, Olivia backpedaled by saying she thought Utica did a good job, but that the judging at this point in the race has become nitty-gritty. The trio thought Gottmik and Denali as the Russian bots were a top 3 performance, as was Tina as the host. But again, Miss Olivia pointed out that the MC was a role the judges could get nitty-gritty about. She went on and on about how hard it is to carry a project like this and how harshly Tina would be viewed, but she ended her report by saying she did think Tina did a good job. Did she? Then Olivia asked who the other 2 thought were in the bottom because, well, she had an idea of one queen who was. Of course she did. It was Simone, but that was an easy call. You could tell that when Ru called Simone's name, she knew it wasn't going to be good. Just saying. Both Utica and Elliot expressed their relief at being safe after being in the bottom last week, but Elliot was still wishing she'd done better in a challenge with dancing. But she also seemed to come to some realization within herself that because this is a competition, she had to focus on herself and not get caught up in the who's friends with who drama that's been running around in her head. Good for her, finally. Utica shared that she felt she was struggling in the group dynamic too, which surprised Elliot, but seemed to relax her because, well, now she wasn't the only one. Of course, that got them all talking about the different cliques. The bald-headed brigade, the winning circle, B squad, the mean girls, and then there was that group of one. Elliot, who's been called the mole, Elliot the spy, active bitch face. Oh, no wait, that's me. I guess Utica was feeling left out again because she revealed a nickname that was going around about her. Little Sweden. Because she's so neutral. Sadly, she meant Switzerland, but Elliot pointed it out to her, revealing that no one has called Utica Sweden, Switzerland, or neutral. Ever. And then she laughed. She wonders why no one likes her. Back on the main stage, Tina Bernter was getting critiqued by the judges. Ross loved her runway, and Michelle loved working with her during the recording, but felt she fell short delivering in the Rusical, specifically when she stopped lip-syncing during her death scene. Talk about splitting hairs. The fact that Tina did a great job throughout this whole Rusical was impressive. If she stopped lip-syncing early during a death scene, who cares? It's not like she stopped lip-syncing during a solo or something. Seriously. Everyone but me loves Simone's runway, but it was a weak distraction from her performance. Jamal was surprised that she didn't bring her runway fierceness to the role, and he wasn't the only one. Candy's runway was another fave of the judges, but Michelle said she couldn't see her face during her performance, and that was a problem. The clear star of the show, Rosé, was raked over the coals by Michelle for her runway. She thought her yellow outfit was orange. Personally, I agreed, but I still felt it had one foot back in the yellow spectrum. But they were splitting wig hairs because all was forgiven where her performance was concerned. Thank God the judges liked Denali's performance in the Rusical, because if they hadn't, I think Denali would have taken the whole studio out by setting that headdress on them. I'm so serious. But the best part of Denali's critique was Michelle adding to her dictionary the word cartoonically. It's right there next to eloquent and brocade. Gottmik got a fabulous review too. Ross accused her of trying to steal the spotlight off of Denali. Well, Gottmik better watch her back is all I'm saying. With that, the queens shuffled off to the Untucked Lounge where the tea was spilled. Clearly, Tina was deflated and she felt she was clearly in the bottom, which stunned the safe queens. No one was surprised that Candy and Simone were in the bottom. Well, almost no one. Candy was back to her clap-backing ways, saying that it wasn't her fault the judges couldn't see her face. Hell, from what I'm reading online, some people would have said that that was a good thing. Rosé felt that she was on the cusp of her first win, but was afraid that her wardrobe might hold her back. Not that Simone or Candy were listening. They just wanted to focus on learning their lip sync. While that went on, Rosé and Denali continued with their frenemies relationship. They keep going on and on about how much they like each other, but I've never heard either of them say a kind word about the other when the other isn't around. Hell, Denali even said she was glad she gave the role of Foxy to Rosé, like she threw the whole impromptu audition on purpose. Seriously. Meanwhile, back in the mean bald winner's circle, the writing was on the wall. Except for Gottmik, none of them was safe. Back on the main stage, it was no surprise to Rosé that she won. It was a surprise and a relief to Tina that she was safe, and she gladly cleared the stage for Candy and Simone's lip sync. This was an interesting lip sync to watch. Simone just oozed confidence and charisma. She never made a big finishing move or a grand gesture, but every move she did make forced you to look at her. Candy, on the other hand, went full ham. She worked it while she worked up a sweat, and I thought she did a great job, but like the Rusical, her wig hit her face, and that billowy dress hit her whole body so that when she was rolling on the floor, she looked like a plastic bag in the wind. Okay, 6 or 7. So, for me, it was no surprise that Simone won the lip sync, but as Candy was in mid-sachet, Ru called her out and said she wasn't ready to say goodbye to her. Gasp! It was a double Shantae miracle! So, what do you think? Week 8 and we still have 9 queens in the race. Do you think it was a well-deserved double Shantae, or do you think they kept Candy in the mix for the drama? If not this week, is Candy circling the drain for next week? What about Utica and Elliot? Are they out of the woods yet? Or could they make a return to being in the bottom? What about Denali? Has she broken the horrible and soul-crushing and painfully tormenting curse of being, dare I say it, safe? Does this mean her frenemy Rosé needs to watch her back more than she has done so far? All we can do is tune into RuPaul's Drag Race next week to see how it all plays out. No, wait, next week isn't a new episode of Drag Race. They're doing a special edition about filming during COVID. But the week after that is the Snatch Game. So when you're done watching both of those episodes, you come on back and you see me so you and I can compare notes. Now, don't forget to like this video if you did, and please subscribe to my channel if you haven't. And until next week, miss me. Mwah. Seriously, Jorge. A lot of drama this week. I love it when the queens are all friends at the beginning, and then the closer they get to the end, the more willing they are to just be friendless. I don't know about Denali though. She's starting to bother me because I feel like she has this expectation of winning that permeates anybody else's performance. Like no matter what anyone else is doing, she's gonna do it better. They could all be sculpting a statue and she'd be picking her nose over here and she'd still sculpt a better statue. Just like that. Just little snot balls of art. Snot Balls of Art was my drag queen name in high school too. Not for long, just that 1 week.